Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, it's Sunday again, and in Staffordshire, well, South Staffordshire, the sun is shining. It's supposed to shine all day, but I know a place on this planet where, in one way or another, it always shines, and that's the beautiful island of Bute. Good morning, David.
Morning, Helen. I think that's a Jimmy Youngism again. I'm not quite sure what that means. Always shining. I mean, I don't think we can say that here.
Well, you and Dan live on the island, so it's got to be always shiny, David.
Oh, bless you. Well, it is a beautiful place. I mean, I count my blessings every day that we're here, and to be honest, I still can't believe we made it here.
I know, but you did, and that. Obviously, it was meant, wasn't it? It was meant.
Oh, yeah. I think we got to count our blessings more in life. Really believing that and realizing that nowadays. And yes, I think it was meant. I think it was meant.
Well, you see, it was like yesterday. Um, the the children were saying uh, um, to them after we saw them a few weeks ago, when are we going to see Nan and Grandad again? When are we going to see them again? We had a lovely day with them, and they didn't want us to go when we left, And the little one, Phoenix, is 10. He says, you're gonna come to us for Christmas Day, are you? I said, well, we don't know yet, Phoenix. We haven't been asked. So, and then they didn't want us to go at the time. So it was a really lovely day. Um, you know, it makes you realise that all the woes and troubles when you realise that you're loved, and that means a lot, doesn't it?
Well, I think we've got to remember what life is all about a bit more, and maybe that will help evaporate the troubles around us.
Yes,
It's not just about money, dog eat dog, and getting what you want out of life. There's a bit more to it than that. Thank heavens.
I agree. I agree. It's but I mean, coming back to the real world for the moment, um, it's really strange what's actually going on at the moment. Um, it seems like everything is in turmoil, and I don't know whether you've heard this, but yesterday I only read it on my phone this morning. At tea time, I'm not quite sure of the time, 6, 7 o'clock or something, yesterday, on the train from Doncaster to King's Cross in London. The train had just left Peterborough railway station, and they're treating it as a terrorist attack. Two men went up and down the carriageways, just stabbing people for no reason at all. 10 people stabbed, nine seriously injured, life-threatening, one not so. They stopped. The train stopped at Huntington Station. All the police were there and everything. The words were they took down the one guy, and they've both been arrested. So whether they tasered him or what they did, I don't know. But you ask yourself, some of these people who do this, they do it in the name of religion. They do it in the name of that they. A lot of them, they're Muslim and they do it in the name of Islam. I know a lot of Muslim people, and they're lovely. So I'm not casting aspersions on Islam at all. But they seem to be hell bent and trying to ruin the Western world. And I think it's a sad indictment of the world at the moment, David.
With the deepest respect, I think that's the wrong way round. Yes, I heard a bit about this terrible, terrible, terrible event again,
Yeah.
but we are bombing the shit out of the Muslim world, to
I,
put a
I,
kind of
I,
point on it.
no,
To
I'm
use
not.
French, and
Yeah.
we expect them to just do nothing.
No, I'm
Britain
not.
is complicit in war
Yeah.
crimes.
Yeah, I'm not saying
But
that we
that's why
are
these
not
things
to blame.
happen. That's
Yeah.
why these things happen. It's not a mystery. That's why these things happen.
Well, yeah, we're over. If you go over the centuries, I've said this many times. Britain has got nothing to be proud of. The word Great Britain. the way that we've plundered and terrorised different parts of the world, and then calling it the Commonwealth. So no, I'm not. I know we're not innocent in lots of things in the world, but it kind of comes home to you when you get isolated incidents like that. You think, are you safe anywhere? I think that's what, you always think of train travel as being pretty safe. You don't get many crashes or anything like that. But for something like that to happen, it brings home, are we safe? And to a lot of degrees, I don't think we are we?
I shouldn't start tempting fate about rail journeys. Oh no, I just think there's a real blindness in this country. The world in a terrible state at the minute, and sadly, most of it makes complete sense. It's just people don't want to, present company accepted, they don't want to look at the reasons behind it all. I mean, Gaza has been reduced to rubble. How many thousands of children are dead now? And yes, that has repercussions because we are one of the aggressors. We're not innocently sat on the sidelines. We're not writhing our hands in despair because there's nothing we can do. We're helping supply the Israelis with weapons, and we're behind them as far as we can get. Therefore, I can't see why this is so odd to understand. I really can't. To my mind, I make a very clear distinction between Israelis and Jews. Jews are the chosen people, and they are of God. And I know very, 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 very many Jews who would support and say exactly what I'm saying. This is an atrocity beyond measure. The Israelis, I'm not against. I just think they've gone crazy. If you're on the edge of a threat, on the edge of a disaster, on the edge of an attack all the time, which is what this society is, then it's going to make you crazy. But that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to the Arabs. You can just mow down children when they're queuing for aid and they're queuing for food. You cannot do that. If you do, you've lost your soul. If you think that that's acceptable, you've lost your soul. What is it the good book says? It doesn't matter if you gain the whole world and lose your soul. And that's what's happening over there. And the Arab, I mean, apart from the fact Gaza's now in rubble, I think the thing that gets most of us, and I'm not excusing the attack yesterday on the train. Two wrongs don't make a right. But I mean, children queuing up to get food to be shot in the head by the IDF is the step too far. Therefore, I'm amazed these things, and that's said with no relish. I'm amazed these things aren't happening more. What do you think, Alan?
No, I agree there. I mean, it's just, you can see both sides of it. The truth is that the fighting, the war, the bombing needs to stop. It's as simple as that. One more life. I mean, we've got a ceasefire there, and then the Israelis bomb again, and then they have the audacity to turn and say, "Well, the ceasefire is still holding." And I think, well, how can it be? Oh no, we thought we was under attack again, so but no, the ceasefire's holding. It beggars belief what's going on. And I'll tell you what also I've noticed about our wonderful media is that it's all about sensationalism. It's all about trying to that's happening there. So it's almost like it takes out of I reckon it's done on purpose. It's taken out of their minds, so it takes it out of our minds. What's happening in other parts of the world, i.e., what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, and then parts of the world that very rarely ever gets mentioned is what's going on in Eastern Europe, You know, in the countries like Azerbaijan, Pakistan, that kind of area, there's been a long time war going on between two of the nations, but it rarely ever gets talked about over here. And there's innocent people dying over there as well, but it's almost like it isn't happening. Um, I think that's the hypocrisy of our society.
Well, our society is riddled with hypocrisy. I fully agree with you. I don't think it's even sensationalism nowadays. I mean, that's the 70s. Nowadays, it's about thought control, and people just put up with it. You know, you will now be worried about this, not the other thing. It's thought control because we're cattle to certain people in this country, to certain vested interests, and it's time us cattle realise that. I mean, the big atrocity at the minute that's on my mind, yes, I'm a total pacifist, is what's happening in Sudan,
Mm.
um, which seems to be yet another version of ethnic cleansing. Why do human beings always have to solve their problems by mass murdering other human beings? You know, the problems they won't go away. There's no resolution. What was it Bertrand Russell said? You know, what wars don't prove who's right or wrong, they only show who's left. You
Yes.
know, I mean, so again, you know, this mass slaughter of other people as if it will solve anything, and it won't. We've got to change our ways and wake up a bit. What do you think, Alan?
I can't argue with that at all. Please excuse me one moment. My throat is. I've got to have a sip of water.
That's normally me. I bet I start a minute now.
Right. No, I'm all right. I think we'll see. If I start choking, um, no, I can't argue with that with you, David, at all. Um, you know, we're supposed to live in a civilized world now. We're supposed to have moved on. But if you look back at history, um, it's no worse or no better than it's always been. There's always been conflict. There's always been wars and fighting. I mean, technically, we're still at war with Argentina. You know, so work that one out of the Falkland Islands.
Oh, don't get me on the Falklands. Oh, because I was a young scallywag back then, and I remember making snide remarks. I mean, you know, at the beginning, you can't help feeling, you know, there was a gag going around that Margaret Thatcher, who of course was going to lose that election and lose everything, had dropped General Galtieri a tenner because it was the best thing that ever happened to her career.
Yeah.
That war breaking out. And so you could make gags like that at first, and you never know, there might have been some truth to them. But of course, what was it, the Belgrano?
Yes,
Trying to think back, that was sunk.
that's
And
right.
the national atmosphere changed overnight. I'll never forget that. And instead of youth being drunken and basically not caring about a thing, they were lit because I come from I grew up in Ferrum in Hampshire, so and I had work in towards Portsmouth. I'm trying to think of how to describe it
Yeah,
at that time, but youth was queuing up to join the armed services the day after, and they wanted revenge. But I remember thinking at the time, but no longer saying it because I didn't want to be beaten up. You don't even know what this war is about, and now you want revenge. You don't know what you want revenge for, but you're queuing up anyway.
yes.
You know, I mean, this is the mindlessness of it all. Everyone is a child of the universe. I've always believed that. Everyone has a decent brain and a good heart. I still believe that. But there are certain vested interests that don't want us thinking that and don't want us realizing that we've all got gifts and we're all special and we're all treasured and the angels love us. And until that changes, not much else will change. Alan, you hit it on the head. You
Yeah.
know, there is no civilization particularly. Things are just as they always were. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to play devil's advocate here now, David. Right? I'm not saying this is my thoughts. This is a train of thought. Okay. in this country, we're supposed to be innocent until we're proven guilty. The former Prince Andrew, because he's no longer a prince, is because of what's happened with his association with Epstein, however you pronounce his name, and about the Victoria Julich, I can't pronounce her surname. He hasn't been tried and he hasn't been found guilty of any crime yet, because of the embarrassment it's causing to a certain family and consequently to the country. He's been ostracised. Now, I'm not saying he's guilty, I'm not saying he's innocent, but and I suppose you could argue, should he stand trial because he says he's innocent, to prove his innocence? It's now, if you're taking the letter of our law, you're innocent until you're proved guilty. And as far as I understand, in America, I believe you're still innocent until you're proven guilty. So, how do we stand on that one, David?
Well, I think we're both devil's advocates on that one. Basically, Charles doesn't like the fact Andrew is much better built and better looking than him, which we've all known forever. I mean, what has he actually done? If we're going to go down that route, okay, Charles was best mates with Jimmy Savile.
Yes, it wasn't.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Of course, that won't happen because he's the king. I mean, I don't know what Andrew's meant to have done wrong yet. No one's accused him of anything. I mean, it's just hearsay and nastiness. Someone needs to accuse him of something. I still can't understand how he lost the title prince. Yeah. If you're the son of the Queen, you are a prince. He is the son of the old Queen.
That's right.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, they're just making it up now. They're throwing him to the lions because they'll do anything to keep power, which I think is disgusting. And it shows that they shouldn't be allowed to keep power. Sorry, Alan.
That's okay. I was reading about that they interviewed residents of people who live very close to Sandringham Estate, where he's proposed to be going living there in the new year. And obviously a lot of them are saying, oh no, we don't want him here and all that. And then the one guy calls up, he says, I don't know whether the man is guilty or innocent, but isn't it amazing that everybody forgets that he was an hero in the Falklands War? He put his life at risk. He saved hundreds and hundreds of our soldiers from certain death when he was a helicopter pilot down there. But everybody forgets that, don't they? Got a point. That guy has got a point.
I think he's got a very good point. I actually hadn't forgotten he was a hero. And a proper one. Not like the modern princes who turn up 50 miles away from any action and then parade themselves around as war heroes. I've no time for the modern, the youth of the Windsors, no time at all. No, I mean, it really comes down to this. What was Epstein guilty of, and was it child sex trafficking or not? Andrew's a party animal. He seems to have had lots of sexual activity with young women, but young women are not children. Young women are young women. And all this, again, it's this smudging that happens in the press. It's this smudging that happens in the minds of most people in this country. To have a gay old time, I couldn't resist the gay old time comment. With young women is totally different from underage girls or children. Epstein is accused of organising the latter, but it strikes me that from what we all know, I mean, until we know more about it all, you can't say a thing. But he also seems to have been some sort of party organiser for the, he set himself up as a socialite, and the organizer of the upper classes. He was putting on dues and parties. So I don't think anybody's ever said that it was just child sex trafficking. I don't think anybody's ever said that. But the way most people go on, that's all he ever did, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is what nobody said. Does that excuse allegedly these pleasure islands where he'd have children taken for the sexual proclivities of the corrupt upper class? Of course it doesn't. And all that should be kept, it shouldn't be kept quiet, and it should all come out in the open and we should know who they are. But that's not what he did with everybody. I mean, he set himself up as the sort of manager of Party Central. I think that needs to be a lot clearer. From what I've heard, and yes, I admit I don't follow these things and I've no time for the Windsors, but from what I've heard, Andrew met healthy young women, which is entirely different. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be. She was supposed to be 17 when he had sex with Victoria. Now, in our law over here, if it's consensual, then the age is 16. Over America, I didn't realise. Apparently, the age is 18. So he committed an offence in their law over there. But I was reading on whether this is true or not. First time he had sex with her, it was in London over here. So I really don't. As I say, I could be wrong there. What I'm trying to get at is that there's some very grey lines somewhere of what's going on.
But Alan, you've hit it on the head. I don't think they're grey lines at all. If he met her here, and that is our law, which it is, he didn't break the law, period. American law is not our law, and it wasn't over there. I think you're right, it's 18 over there. I mean, I'm sick of these Bible Belt Puritans telling the world we're all American anyway. No, we're not, and maybe some of us don't ever want to be. And we've all got to think their way and judge things by their standards. No, we don't. And basically, you're toxic, poisonous people without much to say. In terms of humanity, in terms of a reasoned and balanced outlook of life, and you're not particularly Christian either. No, so it didn't happen there, so we didn't break the law. There we are. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we have to accept that they're all family. Everything they do gets scrutinised, of course it does. And then there's things that are said that aren't true because it makes a sensational story. That's another thing that happens. And I think what a lot of people forget is that there might be royalty, but what are royalty? They are just people who happen to be in the situation that they are in. And how did they get to that situation? Going back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, certain people had the tenacity to have the way about them to lead armies and what have you, and call themselves king and what have you, and then establish themselves, and then their future people who was born later carried on the tradition. So people forget they are just people, aren't they?
Well, I'm not necessarily a friend of the royal family, as I think you know. No, it's not even that. They were all horse thieves and they stole other people's property. It was worse than that. Not just being brave and leading people in war. When did they ever do that exactly? Maybe one or two times. I'd like us all to look much more deeply into that. Not all of them were Richard the Lionheart, who does seem to have led from the front. Most of them led very clearly from the behind and just milked everything they could. I mean, I'm thinking of Magna Carta boy. I can't remember the name of the king offhand. I mean, he didn't actually sign it, because the divine right of kings. He was placed in that position by God. No, you weren't. And it was the barons that said enough's enough, basically. which of course is the first step in Britain of something that was meant to become a democracy. I mean, we didn't do too well at it, to my mind. I mean, we've got a parliamentary monarchy, not a democracy. But I mean, we all need a say. And lots of people in this country do all of these terrible things for king and country, but they've not consulted us. Don't drag us into what you want to do for king and country. What Britain gets wrong at the moment is we have to be proud to live here. We have to be able to say we will back our country because it is worth backing. I mean, how many people can honestly say that at the moment? What do you think, Alan?
No, I agree. I never thought I'd ever feel like this because I've always been. I don't like using the word proud, but pleased that I was born in the UK, born in England. I'm English, but now sometimes I feel quite a disdain of the fact that that's what I am. And another thing also, have you noticed, right? It's almost right. It is now wrong to say that you're English. You've got to say you're British, right? You can't say, yeah, I'm English. If you look on any official forms, it doesn't say I'm English. Are you English? It says, are you British? It's almost like it's an embarrassment to say that you're English now. You know, just like the Scots and the Welsh want to be, recognised for who they are, and the Irish, the Northern Irish. It's almost like now the English. It's wrong to be English. You've got to be just British. Well, I don't know what's going on, David.
Well, everybody, to my understanding, everybody's trying to whitewash themselves.
Yeah.
No, I mean, don't you mustn't lose the pride thing. I mean, there are certain things Great Britain has done which we need to be very proud of. I mean, the whole idea of liberal politics comes from here. The whole modern world is based on that, whether they like it or not in the Bible Belt. The idea that every man is free and innocent and has rights, that comes from here. The art, the theatre, the naturalism, the sciences, so much has come from here that it nearly beggars belief. The sheer amount of light this country has brought, and I mean Great Britain at the minute, has
Yeah.
brought into the world is staggering. The trouble is, we brought so much darkness into the world as well. That's equally staggering. And it's because we're riven down the middle in certain ways. What direction are we going in? I mean, I do think it's odd that the English thing is under attack. I've noticed that myself. And it's where they're trying to say, well, we didn't do it, the English did it. I mean, that's not true. I mean, if you're looking back at all the wars and all the atrocities, I mean, it's always been a mixture of people. I mean, Irish people, Scottish people, and Welsh people were there as well. So you can't really play that if you're looking historically. And we got to admit when we're to blame for something. There is no healing going to occur until we can admit where we've been in the wrong, and then we can take pleasure in where we've been in the right. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that, David. A thought just come into my head about in these trying times. There's a difference between being spiritual and being religious. Um, Being religious just means that you follow a certain doctrine, and I use the word supposedly, to reach God. The fact is, you don't have to belong to any particular religion to reach God. To be spiritual is a wider thing because if you take it to its proper extreme, spiritual means embracing everybody, loving everybody, and caring for everybody. It would appear to be religious doesn't mean the same thing, David.
Well, going back to an earlier point of yours, I don't think have religions caused wars. Yes, but so's everything else. I mean, money is the usual reason. Money and land and resources. I mean, those are the real reasons underneath it all. So, are there wars in the name of religion? Sometimes, but even then, I'm suspicious. What are people actually fighting about? And invariably, it's money and it's land and it's resources. Um, yeah, and I've always held the view that Britain isn't particularly religious, but it is very spiritual. As I sort of see it, religion is like sort of a discipline. You want to reach some higher state, you want to reach some sort of greater certainty, and that's when you use the sort of the measures and you use the rubrics of a religion. I think human beings are naturally spiritual, and that's why it's wider. But I think it's if you want to go, the second step, take a step higher, that's when religion begins to come into it. I don't know what you think about that, Alan.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's strange, isn't it, really? Us human beings. We complain about our leaders, but majority of people, they want to be led. They don't want to be a leader. Most of them want to be led. And then they can complain and say that the leaders aren't doing things right. It almost seems like those who put their head above the parapet, um, they can't win, can they? it's as you say, human beings. I think we are strange creatures. We are strange creatures.
Yeah, again, I've got a slightly more conspiratorial attitude than that. Um, Leaders don't just turn up, they want to lead, and normally they're the very people that shouldn't be allowed to lead. Um, Ordinary working people are being told you are to become a follower, you're a sheep, you're nothing, you can't think, you can't work these things out, all has to be done for you. And the upper classes have said it for so long, people are beginning to believe it. No, I don't think we live in an innocent world where most people don't have the wherewithal. I think they do. I think it's beaten out of them on a number of levels, and we're told you can't do this, you can't do that. Do as we're telling you. I mean, Dan and I watched a wonderful, one of my favourite films actually, a few nights ago. Old black and white movie with Raymond Massey,
Oh yes.
actually written by H.G. Wells. Things to come. And it just amazes me. I mean, the scenes open roughly in our time. I mean, the dating is different because he was making a point. And all the wars and all the ignorance. And of course, it ends up in the not too distant future, which is incredibly advanced. And the descendants of the original protagonists, and it becomes clear in Wells's view that we have a choice. Are we all individuals gifted by the universe, and are we going to live those potentials, or are we all just little animals that need to hide away from it? And that's a real choice, I think, and it's the choice of our time. If we don't make that choice, then maybe we won't survive to see anything else. What do you think, Ellen?
Yeah. Yes. It's strange enough, but you talked about that film you watched, and I just flashed into my head about my dear friend who I love dearly, the Broadway producer Manny Fox, and as most people know, I had a good friendship with Manny, and sadly passed away in 2012. But when I was over there in Sedona in Arizona visiting him, and loads of other people come to visit him, and he was telling us about different things that had happened to him, and and the story that always amazes me is that he hadn't got any work, and the phone ring. He's living in New York. The phone rings, and this producer or whatever of the and offers him work, said he'd pay him $1 million. So he turns up for the interview, and he realises then it's to make a pornographic film. And he said, "No, I'm not doing this. You must be joking." He goes back home, and it was his first wife, Sally. She said, "Why are you back?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, what are we going to do?" He said, "I don't care." He said, "I'd rather starve and do a like that." And that very afternoon, now, on about spirit, that very afternoon, the phone rings. And I've got this right, H.G. Wells, and phones up, and he says he wants him to do a radio broadcast, a story for him, and a film, and offering, I can't remember the amount, I think it was something like about $20 million or something. And at first he thought it was a wind-up, and he had to be convinced. Anyway, he put it together, Manny did, and on the radio it was broadcast on a Sunday evening, from what I can gather about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on the evening, and 1953 I think it was, if my memory serves me right, what he said, and he made the War of the Worlds seem like it was real, and the biggest portion of Americans actually thought they were being invaded by the Martians. The country went into almost meltdown, and that was Manny, the brilliance of how he put it together. So I don't know what you think of that one, David.
Well, you just mentioned the big project by Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, I meant. I'm sorry, I got the names wrong.
Who, of course, also starred in that. I mean, a major artistic achievement.
Yeah.
Well, right, the first thing I've got to say is I'm available for pornographic movies, either on a level of production or indeed as one of the stars. I'm available on most social platforms if anyone wants to approach me. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we got to trust the spirit more, Alan. I mean, that's what's behind that story. Trust the spirit, trust the angels. We're not abandoned. We're not on our own. And all will be well. And we've got to remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is strange, though, the way that life happens, isn't it, sometimes? We think that all is lost. But amazingly, we can come through it. Is that the case in places like Gaza? There are survivors. There will be survivors. But what about all the people who have perished? It's you know, if they pray to God, could you say that their prayers weren't heard? Or is that something that God's got no control over, because at the end of the day we have got our total freedoms, and if a lot of people decide to kill others, that's it, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you've actually hit a very deep theological point there. Is God a puppet master, and are we all mannequins? No. Therefore, we've got to let God off the hook a bit more, because that's the deal. You can't have free will and then blame God. You can't do that. Free will must mean free will. Who is responsible for what's happening in Gaza and Sudan and all Myanmar and all the rest of it? Human beings. Human beings are responsible for that. Are they less tragedies because of that? Of course they're not. They're more tragic than ever before, because human beings can do better. I mean, I'm going to let everyone into a bit of a secret. I mean, I'm fascinated by one of the great spiritist thinkers, Allan Kardec. And I don't know, I just like his view of transmigration. I'm beginning to warm to the idea, not reincarnation per se, but transmigration. He talked a lot about that. He didn't like spiritualism because he thought they were lazy, and it was all about careers. I don't know where he got that idea, Alan. You know, I mean, oh, good God, where did that one come from? He was a French guy, and he wanted to talk about spiritism because he said, "Well, no, this is for people who take it seriously, and what can we learn? What can we learn about these things?" And I don't know, that just that's been catching my attention a lot recently. Um, for him, the trouble with spiritualism is the idea of resurrection. You know what I mean by that? You
Yes.
die here and you're reborn in the next world, and that's a beautiful idea. But Kardec would say, well, what about all the people that have been done the dirty here? What about that? So he's saying, well, also, if you look deep down into the origins of Christianity, you do find something like transmigration. People are born again here, time and time and time again, until they can see what's going on around them and inside them. I'm beginning to find those views very inspirational, particularly with the way the world is at the minute. What do you think, Alan?
Yes, I can understand that. It's really strange on a personal note. As you know, I've been having injections in my eyes, and I had injections in my eyes last Monday each time. And I've been looking at things differently recently. And funny enough, I was talking to my friend Dave Ashworth on the phone the other day, and I said it to him just before he was going to say it to me. I said, I know why all this has happened to me with my eyes. I said, because I haven't been looking at things properly. He said, I was just about to say that to you, Alan. I said, yeah. I said, and what I've also noticed is that since I have started to look at things differently, he says, I know the injections are very important and that. I said, but I, I'm seeing things more clearer, and I'm not just talking about the vision. I'm seeing things different inside my head differently. And I think sometimes our problems um, start from within. Um, so I think what's happened to me has been a big wake up call, David.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry about your poor old eyes, and it's good. I mean, the miracle of the NHS.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I'm sick of people attacking the NHS. It strikes me they're still performing miracles when most of the money goes into managerial pockets. The way the nurses, my God, I mean, they earn next to nothing for this lifestyle that they're asked to adopt,
Yes,
and the training and the skills they've got, and they're always so professional and they're always so caring. And most of the junior doctors, are treated like dirt, and they still get on with things because they still believe in it all. The NHS is a monstrosity, and it's out of control. But that doesn't mean the idea behind it isn't good, and it doesn't mean it can't be brought back to function. And you've just had dealings with an NHS that's on the ropes but still going. So yeah, I'm sorry about your eyes, but you have had the blessing
yes.
of those services in a country that can still offer them. I mean, that's a blessing.
Well,
And
yeah,
yeah, I
I
agree, Alan.
mean,
What Spirit's saying to you,
yes,
everything's a case of vision.
yeah, it is. I mean, at the New Cross Hospital in Wolverhampton, the eye department, absolutely incredible. And you don't realise how many people have got problems with their eyes. And you're quite right, the staff are absolutely wonderful. And I've seen, over the months, I've seen two different doctors, both lovely people. Um, and you can tell that they care, that it means something, might mean something to them. Because because what it was this time, it was after having the initial 3 monthly injections on both eyes. Um, they left it from the 8th of August until Monday, just gone, 27th of October, for me to go back, and they did a complete check again, eye test, camera behind the back of my eye and everything. And my right eye's improved immensely, my left eye hasn't, but my right eye has. So I've got to have some more injections over the next few months. Um, but it was about 25 past 4, 4:30 I went in to see the doctor after having all that, and she says, you're going to need some more injections. And then she says, I won't be a moment. She got up and run out and come back in after about a minute. She said, sorry about that, Alan. She said, I had to make sure. She said, because I know that I was packing up for the day, and I wanted to make sure you could have your injections. She said, but you're all right. They'll hang on for you. And you could see the care and the in her eyes that she wanted everything to be right. So I've got no complaints with the NHS. Personally, I've been dealt with them. Even when I was back in hospital in 2019, the care I had was wonderful. And when I was in hospital in 2019 for a month, I did actually write thanking them for thanking the surgeons and the nurses and doctors for all their help, because the service I got was second to none. So yes, I agree with you. When it works well, David.
Well, I mean, curiously, it was Tony Benn that started alerting people to what was going on behind the scenes in the NHS. I mean, we've got to remember it was Margaret Thatcher, a very mixed bag as a politician. Yeah. Started introducing internal markets because she simply couldn't imagine anything outside American capitalism. She couldn't imagine that. I can imagine that. It was Tony Benn that kept saying, there we are, I told you I end up coughing in a minute. That, it's the managers looking after themselves nowadays, and the workers, I mean, they're more likely to get sacked because all they're doing is working. What do they know about an organisation? Coming from a major socialist, that always caught my attention. But I think, again, good things this country has done, and it can take pride in. The NHS, and I don't care what any American capitalist says about it, it's a treasure. We don't have to pay for our medical services at the point of entry, and it's all manageable. We're not suddenly taken by a rogue ambulance to the nearest hospital and presented a bill for £80,000 or whatever. Untold thousands of pounds. I know there are certain interests that want to bring that in, but over their dead bodies. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, actually, we've got a client who's really like a friend as well now, and this lady is French, and she's been visiting a mom for the last 2 months. She come back home this week, but she's visiting a mom over in France, at the far end of France, but near the Alps. I've seen pictures of the village she comes from. It's absolutely beautiful. Anyway, she gets there at the beginning of September, and a few days later, her mum falls, breaks her hip. Her mum's 92, taken into hospital. She's still in hospital now, so the whole of the time she's been over there, she's been visiting her mum in hospital. She had the operation. She was moved to a recovering hospital, and her hip came out again. She has to go back to the other hospital, and they have to do the operation all over again. And now she's back in the recovery hospital, and apparently the treatment she's had has been absolutely appalling.
She fell out of bed.
Yeah, that's why she fell out of bed as well. They hadn't got guards up on the side of the bed, and she fell out of bed. And she said that the way that she's been treated has been absolutely terrible, so it isn't, there you've got a different country, and somebody at first hand has experienced what's gone on over there. So it makes you think, David.
Well, again, we mustn't get carried away and think, other countries can't do anything and they don't offer good services. What I'm saying is on a general level, the NHS really is a global treasure. I mean, certainly, believe it or not, medicine in Cuba is way ahead of anything we've got in Britain. But yeah, I'm really sorry to hear of your friends' difficulties, and the terrible things happen. And what worries me more is that these huge companies like Big Pharma want us all ill forever, so they can flog their tat to all of us. I mean, this has to stop. The shareholders are complicit in a crime, whether they want to take that on board or not. There was a thing I was reading a couple of months ago where a cancer vaccine had been produced, and the shareholders of this particular company, I won't name it in case they ever do listen, because all they ever do is prosecute. There's a clue if anybody wants to look it up.
Yes.
They had a choice between a very effective vaccine or a less effective vaccine, which meant you had to keep in treatment for years. So they chose the latter because it was better for profits. I mean, until people can start acting like human beings a bit more, things aren't going to change. It's that simple.
No, you're right. It isn't. I mean, you're on about Big Pharma, right? There's a guru. His name is Swami Vishnawanda. I've met him twice personally. He comes from Mauritius, and every time that he's come into this country, he gets stopped, hauled into immigration, questioned. It's always released. He has never done anything wrong. All because he advocates that you don't really need all these medicines and that, because by changing your lifestyle, you can on most things you can cure yourself, and you don't need all these expensive treatments. And the pharmaceutical industry don't like that, and consequently the government don't like it. So every time he comes to this country, he gets hauled in, questioned, and then they have to let him go. I mean, what does that tell you?
Well, I think that says everything, doesn't it? I mean, we all know deep down a change of lifestyle and healthier living will, at the very least, ward off most of these things. I
Yes.
mean, again, it depends what we want, what sort of world we want to live in. It depends what sort of society we want to live in. We mustn't assume everybody's working for the good and the general good. We mustn't assume these companies have no say whatsoever, and they're the victims. These are the perpetrators of untold crimes, and we've got to wake up to it. If money is your god, then this is the sort of world we will live in. What do you think, Alan?
Yes, that's very true. It's strange. Said earlier about religion, spirituality. I mean, the church that we're members of, the OCAC, up to now have always come over as if everything is very open, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from, and that's really how a church should be, isn't it?
Um, like every other church, it has its flaws.
Yes.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that is sort of true, Alan. So, I mean, for me, I think old Catholicism was a revelation. I mean, the trouble is people keep things quiet. They don't want other people learning about the world, so you can't really make informed choices. I mean, old Catholicism has been in other words, liberal Catholicism has been an eye opener for me. Um, OCAC is at the least the best of a bad bunch, and but liberal Catholicism is a flower of evolution, and I think you and I look forward to exploring it further.
Yeah, I agree there. See, I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this before I met our departed friend Paul de Burton. Um, he, I was, what's the word, ignorant about Catholic, because the Roman Catholics have done such a good job that you think that if you're Catholic, you're Roman Catholic, and that's exactly. And I always remember saying to Paul when I met him down in London, I said, I'll never be a Catholic, right? Being totally naive, I have to accept that, totally naive of the truth of the matter. And the fact is, Roman Catholics, the church has done an incredible PR job of getting millions and millions and millions of followers around the world. Where the fact is, there's a lot of Catholics in the world who aren't Roman Catholics, David.
Well, again, that's another bullseye. And I mean, for all of his faults, and I'm sure there were many, Bishop Paul de Burton actually did us proud in the end.
Yes, love him, man.
You know, a lovely person. I'm sure he's resting with the angels now. A problematic organisation, a problematic tiny church, but with hindsight, probably a lot of the problems was because it was so tiny. Without him, I think this journey wouldn't have started off in the way it has done. No. And it's led us to liberal Catholicism. Yeah, I mean, Catholicism, it comes in many forms. It comes in many types. And you're right, the Romans have done a very, very good PR job. I noticed they changed their tune very quickly. If you say, but I'm this sort of Catholic, and they're all of a sudden they're tripping over themselves to reframe what they're saying. But yeah, it's a shame that's happened, and they really should have more faith in the Catholic tradition and what it's trying to do. What do you think, Alan?
Yes, I agree. You know, it's there's a lot of secrecy goes on as well, isn't there? And they're such a rich church, and then you ask yourself, well, how much do they help their followers? Nothing's really said about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the trouble with church life is it's allowed dogma to take over everything. So in other words, you've got a couple of ideas in your head, and if you don't agree with all those ideas, somehow you're wrong and you're going to hell. Those are only a couple of ideas in somebody's head. There is much more to the life of spirit than that. You know, and I blame America as normal, as usual, because it does take the lead in all of this. That's why. Do I hate America? No, I don't. Do I think everything over there is uniformly bad? Of course I don't. But it takes the lead in these things, which is why it must bear the brunt of criticism. You know, now you can only be a Christian if you're a member of the toxic Bible Belt. That's never been true and never will be. And you're a Christian because you've got a couple of ideas in your head that you were sent to. My heavens, no wonder they're so backwards in the spiritual life if they really think that. It's not about memorizing a couple of ideas. Christianity, liberal Catholicism in particular, is about spiritual experience, embracing goodness, beauty, and truth, and trying to lead a loving and intelligent life. What do you think, Alan?
I agree, and I also know that it's time that we have to say goodbye, David. So another hour gone by pretty quickly, I would think. So I have to say I won't be here next weekend, next Sunday. So I can't do a show next weekend, David, unfortunately. We're out actually helping somebody who's going through a very bad time, and that's the earliest that I can get to them. Well, that can let me get to them, let me put it that way. So it's going to be a couple of weeks before we can do the show again.
Yeah, I mean, that showbiz, the fight, the good fight, Ellen.
Yes, indeed. So, quickly, if anybody wants to get hold of you, what can they do?
I'm like a chart across social media. I can be found.
Okay. Yeah. They can even send you a message in a pigeon, can't they?
Yeah, if they feel that way inclined. Yeah.
Okay. And then get hold of me as well, understandingspirit.com and all the other media platforms. So I hope everybody has a wonderful Sunday, and I hope the sun shines on you. And so until we speak again, God bless and goodbye.